All right. And I think there's a delay between us and Facebook. So,
Got you. So, Kathleen, I noticed a couple trees are having weird things. The people are losing the root of the tree, and I want to show a picture to Bob, so he can see. Maybe he can tell us. These are signs of the plants are getting damaged by Roundup. Bob, did you get my picture?
I haven't gotten to
I wonder
those
if I
yet.
can.
Is the bark splitting on the tree?
The bark looks good. It just in the bottom, there's a round of, there's no grass, right? And everywhere else have the grass. If I can share the screen, Kathleen, if you allow me to share the screen.
Yes, I will. I have the screen sharing. You should be able to share the screen. Do you want to share that later on, or would you like to start with that?
We can probably share it later on.
Okay.
But I will find it first.
Okay. We are live on Facebook right now. So
okay.
Just so you know. Okay.
Okay.
And I do see that you're sharing the screen currently. So
right. I'm going to find the tree. You can let me just not to share right now. Then I can probably. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm going to find it and blow it up so everybody can see it. Okay, there we go. I will stop share for now.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So welcome everyone. I'm Catherine. I'm the volunteer and membership coordinator for the Ecology Center. And today we're going to be discussing glyphosate, its impact on soil, the food we eat, human health, and so on. So as we go through, please be sure to write any questions that you have in the comments on Facebook. And then when we reach the Q&A portion, I will read them aloud and try to get through as many as possible. So today we have two very special guest speakers here with us, Dr. Shanhong Lu and Robert Streit. Bob is the founder and president of Central Iowa Agronomics, and he has over 40 years of experience as an agronomist, crop consultant, and plant scientist. And Dr. Lu is a speaker for environmental medicine, practitioner empowerment, and has been practicing medicine for over 20 years. Thank you both for joining us today. And I will start with asking you some questions, Dr. Lu. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself changing from being a local ICU doctor and nursing home director to donating your time and offering environmental medicine consultations, that would be great. That sounds like a very huge shift.
Oh, absolutely. So Catherine, first of all, I want to thank you guys. And Leslie, I want to thank her because she said, call the Ecology Center. Maybe they can get the word out. And I came to Mount Shasta in 1998 and recruited by the local hospital to serve as ICU attending physician and also the director for Mount Shasta. At that time was Mercy Medical Center. So when I first came, 1998, right? I'm seeing some regular medical illnesses and, people, they're getting old and they're getting sick and the regular aging thing. And then gradually I started seeing more and more people. Okay, so recording in progress. And more people, they're getting younger, okay? And the initial group of people actually came to see me are women. And they claim they were healthy and skinny. And suddenly they start gaining weight. Many of them actually came from Dunsmuir, where we had the Cantura loop spill. If people go back to that time, is what happened is the agriculture chemical loaded train derailed. And that incident is the first wake up call that these agriculture chemicals can actually completely kill all plants and animals downstream. And I think that people, they didn't live that time. Maybe Catherine, you guys are young. You probably, you were not here. Is we didn't really know that, right? So many of the women came with autoimmune, thyroid cancer, and uterus cancer and bunch of stuff. And at that time, I really did not know anything about environmental medicine, which is really a sad reality. People like Bob, people like environmentalists, right? Environmental scientists, they know these chemicals actually do more than just kill insects and unwanted weeds. But there's such a disconnection, right? The physicians are seeing a group of women came and say, look, Dr. Lu, something happened to us and we're getting sick. So I was busy managing the consequence of poisoning, basically. And with no clue, we were just giving people some drug to manage their diabetes, their high blood pressure, send them to oncologists. And gradually over the past 10 years, I'm seeing myself getting sick. It really started when I was 42 years old. That was 15 years ago. I got Hashimoto, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. I have to take a nap after lunch, right? My body's constantly in pain. My heart was going into arrhythmia. And I was basically grabbing whatever pharmaceutical drug I had. Now, at age 42, I have a great gene. My mom is 96 years old. She didn't take any pharmaceutical drug. So I know there's something that happened in the modern society that attacking the younger generation. The older people are actually healthier. Do you see? So now I am looking at the younger group are getting sicker and much more complex. People started coming to see me for autoimmune, for Lyme's disease, for mold sensitivity, for chemical sensitivity, for cancer. We have lost many young people in this town. They're younger than me, have passed away from digestive tumors, from lymphoma, from weird leukemia, you know? So about 4 years ago, I met Bob in San Diego. This is where everything started to happen. I met him at the Environmental Health Symposium. I met Dr. Ciarolini. I listened about what is the Roundup, what is the glyphosate, what is a GMO food? Are they connected somehow? I suddenly realized I'm missing a big missing link here, right? So meeting Great Plains Lab was great because they gave us opportunity to measure environmental toxins. We're not just talking about toxins, we can measure it. And gradually I decided to actually put my practice aside and do donation-based environmental medicine toxin screen. And last year gave me the opportunity to stay here instead of testing everybody else in the Bay Area, you know, in Chicago. I was actually testing people in Mount Shasta, Wairika, and Redding. And what we have found, people with cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, Parkinson's disease, thyroid cancer, thyroid tumor, pancreatic issues, they all had one common chemical in the Mount Shasta area, okay? One of them is glyphosate. The other one is BPA. Now, BPA has been a high volume plastic material in our life for a long time as well. Now, glyphosate is something we actually use in our community. I didn't know that until I watched Pacific Power spray the area around the electrical post to control fire hazard. I saw my neighbor spray. I saw a woman spraying near the golf course, and she didn't seem to understand. She actually was the immediate, you know, endangered because she was not wearing a mask. She was just spraying in a windy day. You know, basically, it's actually pretty common scene. When I mentioned this to people, people start to keep their eyes open, and suddenly they realize even Mount Shasta does not have agriculture. We don't have a area people spray a lot, but along the Highway 5, along the train track, people domestic use are actually way more common than I realized. So that's why I decided I need to talk to the local people about this issue. because living in Mount Shasta, if you look at our cancer registry, Mount Shasta, Siskiyou County is not low cancer rate. Montague is a small farming town about 30 miles out north, have the highest autistic rate in the school district. This you can actually see. You can go to California autistic registry and they will tell you which school district has the highest percentage of autism. So when that's becoming, we have data now. I have measured people. We have the school district from California. We have the cancer registration in California. We are clearly see a pattern. The pattern is the usage of agriculture chemicals. So I love to explain, like, invite Bob to talk about this history. Like, when did we start becoming chemically dependent as agriculture that we have created the poison of our food?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Lu. I'd also like to ask, the discovery, the development, and the approval of glyphosate, how did that come to pass?
Well, good question, Dr. Lu. Very good summary on what you've seen. And my background is I've been involved. I grew up on a farm in northern Iowa, and really until, say, the late 70s or 80s, there's a lot more mechanical weed control that was going on. Roundup came along in the late 70s, and at first it was used to clean up weeds on bare ground or for no-till burn down. And cost was fairly high then, and we saw it kind of as a miracle chemical because we've never had seen anything else work like that. And it was sold as a product that was safer than table salt, and you could drink it with no problems. And that ended up not being the case. In fact, the two testing labs that did the work for Monsanto, one was IBT, and they did such a good job that they paid a $24 million fine, and quite a few of their corporate officers spent time in jail. We worked to try to find the background on the second lab that was at 123 Cliff Cave Road in the St. Louis area, and we could never find any proof that they ever actually existed as an independent lab. So the Chinese government and the Japanese people know that all of the safety data presented to them that they used to sell the idea of importing that grain was all falsified and bogus. So it was never really proven safe. Now, the cancer lawsuits that took place in San Francisco, and the plaintiff was Lee Johnson, who was a groundskeeper for a school district. And the expert witness in the trial was an older gentleman, very good biochemist by the name of Anthony Samsel. And Anthony was alerted to it based on some work in his greenhouse. But through the Freedom of Information Act and his congressman, Monsanto was forced to give him a lot of their secret data. And one of the big reasons the lawsuit was decided in favor of Lee Johnson was they just pulled Monsanto's own data out of the research papers and used that against them, and they really couldn't dispute it. And say right now, the two fastest increasing cancers are non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and leukemia. Well, in the papers, the scientists injected radioactively labeled glyphosate into lab rats, and within 24 hours, 80% of it had gone to the bone. Well, what happens in the bone? You got bone marrow, you make red and white blood cells, and both of those cancers are blood cancers. So it doesn't take rocket scientists to draw the conclusions. So the widespread use of it really took off starting in 1996 when Roundup Ready crops were in test plots, and 97, 98, 99 is really when they exploded. And besides Roundup Ready soybeans, Roundup Ready corn came onto the market. And they did an excellent sales job. They sold it as far as easy, safe, and no serious consequences from being exposed to it. But if you look at the Swanson data, her graphs, basically every one of the major diseases basically just exploded over the next 15 or 20 years. I graduated from high school in 1972. And in that era, if you ask any person in that age bracket, how many kids in their school were autistic, they'd say we maybe had 2 or 3 that were mentally challenged or retarded in development, but no autistic people. Now, I know Stephanie Seneff, the head chemist at MIT, is saying by 2025 or 2030, roughly 50% of the males will probably be autistic. So it's a huge, big health problem. It's going to be a huge budgetary problem because I think last estimate I saw is taking care of an autistic child in grade school or high school is running some places $55,000 up to $72,000 per year per student, and school budgets just can't tolerate that.
Yeah.
No, they certainly.
So, and then it is the largest used herbicide in the world. There's quite a few tons of, or millions of tons being applied each year, and they sold it as a product that disappeared when it hit the soil. Now they made it sound like it was gone, but no, it's got a very long life to it, depending on soil type and climate and the amount of rainfall, because most chemicals are broken down by microbes. This glyphosate, when it's broken down, its primary metabolite is even more toxic to the microbes than is glyphosate.
Oh,
So when it's breaking down, it becomes more toxic over
Yes,
time. Wow.
that's one of the rare ones that will do that.
mhm.
So really, because it was sold as very safe, a lot of city people, a lot of farm people really were not suiting up like they should have been, wearing gloves like they should have. Some were going out in flip-flops, gardening with it. And a lot of kids were playing on playgrounds that they had just sprayed in the recent past, a few days before, or they were getting drifted on if it was being applied. So multiple exposures. We're working with a medical company in Idaho that has developed something that helps the problem to a great degree. And I said, besides the farmer that or applicator that is spraying it, you've got to address the health and the risk that the mother or the person doing their wash or folding their clothes is also exposed to. So then the next threat is it in our food supply? And in Germany, the word for forbidden is verboten. And anyhow, only in Canada do they really do government-sponsored testing of different food products to see what residue is in their diet. And there's a very good article written, Glyphosate on Safe at Any Plate, by Dave Murphy and one of his associates. And anyhow, the worst food I would have anyone eat is probably Cheerios. So they typically do not spray it to kill weeds or grass, but with the price of farm machinery, combines especially, getting very expensive and farm size increasing, if they're going to have custom combiners or harvesters come in, they have to know that the crop will be ready to harvest and dried down the day the combine gets there. So they're going to ensure that the field is ready to go by spraying glyphosate, say, a week before. And glyphosate, when it goes into the plant, moves to this tissue that is still forming new cells, and that would be the grain. So it's in the oats, it's in the grain. Tony Mitra out of Canada has tested lots of different foods. Those guidelines are available. What we don't have though is any little handheld gauge that you can take into the store and test each of your food. And that has been our goal. Jill Clapperton is a world-class soil microbiologist. She's out of Spokane, Washington, and a wonderful lady, but she repurposed an X-ray diffraction scanner made by Bruker Instruments out of Boston. And that instrument, you can put a food product on it, put a piece of a plant or put a grain on it. And within 30 seconds, it will tell you the mineral level of that food. And we thought we'd be able to do pesticide residue testing, but at this point, we can't do it with a handheld one. Jill's machine was re-engineered somewhat by a team of engineers working with Dan Kittredge and the Bionutrient Food Association. And they now have it where you take a cigarette size pack instrument about the size, that size, and take it in the food store and read the mineral levels in your food down to down to the part per billion. And we met with the food or the telephone companies already, and they said they could put the chip and the software in a cell phone for $5 to $7 per phone.
Wow.
So we're hoping to have that ability in the near future.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Awesome. So Bob, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I actually got a call from Oakland Poison Control, and he was reporting many people are bringing back their Roundup because of the lawsuit, and they have been storing in the garage. The first question is it safe for them to have that in the garage, in the container? Does it come out of the bottle? Because I had a amazing physician himself tested really high, and he has ALS, unfortunately. He was storing a bottle in his garage that is really hot. So that's number one question. Number two, if they want to get rid of it, you don't want them to just dump in their backyard. Where do right now people, what do they do with it? Because they bought a lot of it.
Well, in most cases, usually counties will have a day when people can bring used pesticides back, open containers back. A lot of people's had their minds changed when Monsanto lost the big lawsuits, and there were 3 total. The second one was for, I think, $2.2 billion for an older couple. Some of that was reversed. Another one, I think the Hardeman was for $279 million. And then there's a big case on dicamba, which is also a Monsanto invention, and that caused it vaporized, and then the vapor moved, and it killed quite a few thousand acres of peach trees in Missouri. And that was another $250 million lawsuit. So, but can it vaporize? I've heard some testimony that there's probably enough in the oceans that is vaporizing off the Pacific Ocean and coming on shore. And the die-off in the pine trees is probably due to the glyphosate chelating the minerals. And glyphosate is sold as killing plants by interrupting the shikimate pathway. Well, the truth be told is actually glyphosate was patented by a chemist by the first name of Jim, who was a physical chemist with Stauffer Chemical Company, and they patented as a chelating agent to clean up water treatment, water cooling equipment. And yeah, we've visited with him. He's a friend of ours. He's actually an orchid breeder right now, retired. But anyhow, Monsanto knew they could not patent it as a chelator because that had already been done. So they patent it on the shikimate pathway, but they were found to have been lying with that, and DuPont proved that in court. But how it kills plants, and this was proven by a scientist at Purdue University, but when they planted tobacco and other crops in soil that had been sterilized, no microbes, the herbicide would stunt the plant, stunt it in growth, but with no microbes in the soil, there was no root rot to attack the plant and kill it by rotting its roots. But when you plant soil or have the plants living in soil from the fields, from the gardens that have microbes in them, the minerals that are needed to fuel their immune system, your copper, your manganese, your boron, your zinc, then the plants can't protect themselves against root fungi, and the root rots kill the plants.
Yeah,
Now,
that's something I learned, Bob, is I've been testing people's minerals. And so many people, even they eat organic food, they think they're really doing everything they can, but if they're spraying Roundup, their minerals are still depleted. So I think there's an interesting phenomenon. You know, somebody only eat organic food, but will use Roundup in her own garden, or sometimes it's used by gardeners. They don't know what the gardeners are doing. So that's really a big shock to me, because I tested a lot of people in Marin. In Marin, you know, people are wealthy and they hire gardener. And when the gardener goes in and spray the weed with Roundup, you know, they don't even know they're being, you know, exposed to Roundup. And many of the gardeners are, you know, they don't read the label. They just know this thing works, right? They have to take care of 100 family, their garden. So they drive around and then they do the spray. So I think it's really very dangerous, because there's no warning on the bottle, Bob. You know, if you are spraying 2,4-D, there's a warning, say, you know, it can cause your eye irritation, stomach upset, you know, blah, blah, blah. And Roundup does not have that.
yeah, we dug up, Nancy dug up the papers from 1974, where EPA wanted the bottle to have like a warning label on it, skull and crossbones or close to it. And for some reason, that wording was changed.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, we got the actual documents from that era.
This is very, very sad.
Yeah. And then,
so that
yeah, I mentioned Roundup crops. Only 2 people have tested another question, is when the plants are genetically manipulated, genetically modified, does just the insertion of the, say, the Roundup resistant gene reduce mineral levels in the plant? And one guy that did that was a fellow named Ishmael Kaknak at Purdue. And the second guy was Luis Zobioli, who is a young Brazilian scientist at University of Missouri with Bob Kramer. And when I traveled about 400 miles down to Columbia, Missouri to visit with Luis, because I get quite often. And what he found out, he just tested for zinc and manganese. He found out just the insertion of the gene using Agrobacterium tumefaciens reduced the zinc content by 45% and manganese by 17%. And then Ishmael looked at a total of 6 minerals. I haven't committed those figures to memory, but I just saw a COVID or an article in the Epoch Times newspaper. And at this point, there's only one group of doctors has tested people that had the COVID virus for their mineral levels. And they found a distinct correlation between zinc content in their blood and in their body and susceptibility to viruses.
Wow.
To me, all the people that had it should have been tested by their doctor or their hospital.
Yes. Yep. Fantastic recommendation, because that's very easy to do. They're drawing all kinds of blood anyway. So,
but what we know right now, say if a person is having any symptoms and they're not feeling well, we would say get a urine test a blood test, or even a hair sample analyzed. And typically it's taking a instrument called a mass spec or mass spec triple pole. And there's a lab in Iowa, Southeast Iowa, called Research Health Lab, will analyze the samples for $80 or $90. And for example, I had one farmer friend, and he was going to the Mayo Clinic because he had some neurological problems, and he's a healthy 6-year-old or 60-year-old, and no other signs. He's not overweight, he eats decent, but Mayo Clinic come up with any diagnosis, and he sent a sample into Dr. Fagan's lab, and he came back at 3.6 part per billion.
Wow.
And so he went through 90 days of taking pills, and after the third treatment, his test level was at like 0.30
Wow.
and all of a sudden his symptoms were gone.
Yep. That's wonderful. I want to, Kathleen, just show people very quickly what I think people should do. And then Bob clearly can add a little more. I think the key thing is people need to get it personal. This is a personal thing. Because every time we talk to somebody who's spraying and say, do you know this causes cancer? And do you know we have people, dying from cancer here? Somehow they are not, they somehow, it's weird, Bob. Maybe you can explain to me why men are like this. Somehow they don't think it affects them. They sometimes have tremor. You see they have a tremor, right? And you say, are you using Roundup? And this Roundup can cause tremor. And they will say, well, I'm just tired. I can't change that because I have 4,000 acres that I have to take care of. And so it's a very interesting thing. By making it visible, I have talked to a farmer who have been using it, but when he sees it in his urine, he become curious, at least. Then he start Googling, what does this thing do? Then he will come back say, oh my God, right? But if you don't get it to his urine, let's say just his wife have it, he doesn't seem to have somehow understand that can affect him as well. Do you see? So Kathleen, that's one thing I want to at least create a vision for our beautiful Siskiyou County, right? Or Mount Shasta only, is let's make it a non-toxic community, because we really don't have the reason to spray those very toxic agents in this tiny little place where we're in the valley, Bob. We don't have a lot of open space for the air to go out. If you're spraying here, your neighbors for sure is going to get it. And also our soil is very porous. We have the volcano. The volcano, the soil has good, volcano, which is purifying the water, but it's also very porous. So if you're spraying, like 100 meters away or a mile away, if it gets into the aquifer, we all have well, and the well can be contaminated very easily. So it's something I feel we can start with a small town and educate people about the half-life of the chemical, how they get into the water, it can affect people. And these are symptoms like dry eyes, teary eyes, worsening allergy, because people don't understand that could be, from Roundup, digestive issues, constipation, diarrhea, brain fog, hair falls out, right? Because it affects your thyroid, hair falls out. And Bob, Dr. Samso told me he measured, people's teeth. He measured the thyroid, and he found those organs are loaded. Glyphosate is in everything. So when people start having their teeth are falling apart, I talked to the local dentist. He said, Dr. Lu, we have a lot of teeth problem last year. And he thinks people are clenching their teeth because it's stress.
Mm,
but it could be, chronic poisoning by Roundup. You see?
yeah.
So, but we don't know until you measure it.
Of course. Yes, that's true. And I think it's important to educate and see the connection between all of these different things, how the soil is related to our water supply and so on, and the food that we eat. And yeah,
Yep.
really appreciate you both
See, now,
speaking to that.
see
Bob,
what
what do
we're
you
seeing
suggest
too.
as we should do as a
Well,
community?
I think testing needs to be once a year for a person exposed, get yourself tested. Because if we say it's $80, there's a story about a fellow that went down to MD Anderson Cancer Clinic, and for 90 days of treatment, his medical bill was $1.2 million. So
Wow.
just insurmountable. But for the person that is around it a lot, I'd say when you get done with the application season, have
Mhm.
yourself tested. It's well worth it.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned it's an organophosphate pesticide, and those are very strong chelators. Now, you mentioned Parkinson's syndrome. Really, what is going on? If we mention that in plants, manganese, copper, boron, and zinc, if the plants are short, they're going to get diseased. If a
Mhm.
human body is deficient in those, same thing, you'll get sick.
Mhm.
Now, on our nerve fibers, what is going on? There's a good book written called Could It Be B12 by Sally
Mhm.
Pokalak, who was a registered nurse.
Mhm.
And she was really curious about why so many of the people that were in nursing homes or aged facilities, they had neurological problems. And they were being treated for different illnesses, but what she found out is they were typically very deficient in B12 or
Yep.
B vitamins. Well,
Yep.
B vitamin, the core atom, is cobalt.
Mm.
Now, Roundup chelates manganese quite severely, zinc, and the others, but it chelates cobalt
Mhm.
127 times worse.
Mhm.
Now, so the amount of cobalt in your system will determine how thick the myelin sheath is on your nerve fibers. And
Uh-huh.
if you lose that myelin sheath, it's like having extension cords running through your house, 440 volt, and the insulation is off of them. So we talk about a insecticide called Lorsban, and that's in the
Mhm.
organophosphate family also. It got a
Mhm.
little bit of a reprieve, but Dow Chemical is not making it anymore. There's a couple foreign firms producing it, shipping it in, but we need safer, newer products developed. There are some right now that could do that. And then
Yes.
the universities have a problem that they're not really teaching this. We work some with a young Amish agronomist, and he taught theory that Carrie Reams taught, and that is if healthy plants are full of minerals and full of energy, the insects and diseases don't cause problems there. And we see that, and we see more the regenerative ag people are teaching that,
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
Amish are, but the modern universities are so prostituted by the big chemical firms. They'll look at you funny when you tell them you can grow healthy plants full of minerals that actually taste a lot
Mhm.
better. So we've got to have those people catch up to the modern thinking. And then I work
Yes.
as an agronomist full time and have for years, but I lost a sister to cancer in 1986 and just lost a grandson about 5 months ago. And both of them had cancer. And the thing that caught me,
Mhm.
I've gotten to know Anthony Samsell and Steph Sena quite well. Steph was in Beijing with us, but
Mhm.
we really wanted and needed some good biochemists to explain how Roundup acted in the body and how it caused so many different diseases. And Anthony
Mhm.
Samsell is older, probably late 70s, early 80s chemist. he was the expert witness in the trials. And Steph Seneff is the lead chemist at the Artificial Intelligence Lab at a little college called MIT. But anyhow, they wrote 6 20 to 40 page long medical review papers that explained why the different diseases are showing up, like brain fog, irritable bowel, food allergies, all of this, and then getting into the heavy duty neurological problems. One that we're working with a chiropractor out of Wisconsin on, but Anthony, well, we're seeing in the sports world that there's a lot more athletes, a lot more people that are blowing out tendons, ligaments, knees. They're needing not limb replacements, but joint replacement surgeries as early as 12 years old. And the theory that Anthony proposed was that the Roundup was accidentally being pulled into the body when the body was trying to build tissue, and it thought it was grabbing a glycine molecule, and it accidentally grabbed a glycine analog, which is glyphosate. So it incorporated Roundup in the tissue. The Roundup continued to chelate, and it pulled out the copper in the tissue. Now, you showed that picture of a tree, and because copper is instrumental in tissue to lend flexibility and stretchability to the tissue, when the copper is pulled out, the tissue doesn't stretch and flex anymore. It breaks instead. And in the trees, that's when you get cracking right around the soil line. And that lets in invasive pathogenic fungi. But Anthony Samsel has dissected quite a few cadavers of different ages, and he is finding glyphosate in teeth, organ tissue, ligaments, and we're looking at a project also where we do the same thing, get some joint or junk joints that are going to be pitched by the orthopedic surgeon and dissolve them down using different enzymes and measuring exactly what level is in the tissue, and then actually come up with salves that replace the copper. And that way we could test every kid going out for sports and come up with a predictive model for if they should be putting on these copper infused salves so they don't blow their knees out or joints out. And I just went through orthopedic surgery in January, and I used those salves. I took lots of minerals, and I probably had the best recovery of anyone I've ever heard about.
That's wonderful.
It gets down to the personal level. You know, what can you do to protect family members and such like that? And
Fantastic.
what happens if you've got, say, if you've been exposed to heavy metals at work and they've gotten into your body, say you do a lot of welding, you're around metals a lot, or solvents, everything you are exposed to that is dangerous is cumulative. And if they're in your body, they'll cause inflammation. Inflammation can metastasize into cancer, and you've got a real problem. So what I learned from the environmental health doctors is you've got to be able to measure your level, and everyone's immune system operates at various speeds depending on genetics and your mineral levels. And if your system doesn't quite detox fast enough, you've got to find another way to pull it out.
Yep. That's actually the part of the work we're doing now, Bob. We have been documenting people's level and then do a genetic testing. If they can afford it, they can always start with 23andMe. And then we do a protocol based on their exposome, which is really the epigenetic part of the issue. And then we look at their genetic predisposition, and then we can make up a more effective program. So it's getting better and better every time. I've been learning quite a bit from some of the most brilliant minds, and now we can really help people together. So it's really fantastic time to do medicine, actually.
You know, there's a few environmental doctors that are very thoughtful in their thinking process. I can name head of your group is a farm gal from Illinois, that survived cancer, Crohn's, and mold exposure.
Wow.
And then Nasha is a farm gal from Kansas, and she's cured herself of cancer with no drugs, just healthy diet, saunas and sweats, and chelated with some natural compounds, humates, what have you.
Right. So it is available now, and I think we just want to educate people why prevention is we need to shift from treating disease to prevention, to getting rid of these chemicals very easily. You just have to be educated, and it's worth it if we have safe alternative. Bob just told us this new one is coming up onto the market. It's called what is called? It's called organic contact organic.
Yeah.
Contact organic.
Yeah. If people have weeds, they've got to control. The question is, how do they do it? And I guess I've been in Marin County several times working with a group, and they've got a problem weed up there called Scotch broom or French broom that has a lot of oil in it, and it's partly to blame for the forest fires they have out there. Well, they got to control it. And in that watershed, they want it to go back to using glyphosate. And forget about if the water gets poisoned, they kill all the people with cancer, but no wildfires. So there's a team of chemists and human nutritionists over in Australia developed a safe alternative. And I've used it myself on a perennial weed called Canadian thistle about 2.5 years ago. And it killed the thistle after 4 hours of sunlight. Wow. It's completely safe. We had it tested by Dr. Robert Kramer, USDA ARS soil microbiologist, farm guy from Missouri. And he found out it was perfectly safe to soil microbes and actually used as a food source for the good microbes. So it's for sale now, but the state of California has some fairly restrictive rules as far as bringing things in. But lady we interact with some up in South Salito. They have where they've got cities like where Berkeley is at. I'm trying to think of the name of that town, but where they've passed laws saying Roundup is gone or needs to be gone. They need an alternative, and this is the best thing we've seen. Vinegar based, has got oils and salts in it with a patented formula, but it's available nationwide right now. And it will be in the big box stores. You can look up right now, there's a website called Contact Organics that it's available for order.
Wonderful.
And main thing we say, you've got to get good coverage with it.
Yep.
And right now it's a 20-to-1 dilution, but they're working on up to 50-to-1. So your volume used will decrease in the future.
Yep. And now, Bob, I want to ask you this urgent question. Okay. Can people send you their soil? You will analyze it for them to save their tree, because this is a beautiful big tree. It's about we were going to lose it. So are you guys seeing it?
We're not seeing anything on the screen right now.
Okay, I need to try to share it. Let's see, how do we share this thing?
Should be on the bottom middle of your screen, share screen.
Okay, hold on. I think I'm in the picture, that's why I see, got you. So Bob actually does that kind of work, and he can probably receive some samples for us. We want to be very practical. We want to give them solutions, and we also want them to call Bob. Bob, are you still doing the soil analysis for them?
We'd have to analyze him for glyphosate in the water, urine,
Right.
hair. It runs about
Yep.
$80 to $90. Doing salt is about $300. But
Right.
we did come across a new product this year from a new company. It's
Mhm.
called Phytobiotics.
Okay.
They're from Germany,
Okay.
and we used some last year. And we had a lot of trees that were showing signs of fungal attack,
Mhm.
different diseases. And the phytobiotic line, they've got a very good German chemist who grew up in Brazil, but they are mineral based. They're chelated with an amino acid glycine.
Mhm.
And you can spray the bottom leaves of the tree and it will go all the way through the tree. So you spray the bottom branches and it goes all the way up to the top of the plant.
Mhm. So
So
glycine.
yeah, it's called, the company is called Phytobiotics. Is being imported by BW Fusion out of Western Iowa.
Mhm.
But I've got pictures I took of a bur oak tree that got sprayed accidentally with dicamba drift.
Oh,
And it completely cured the problem. And I had a friend that had a tall oak tree that was diseased. And, you know, how do you get the top 50, the leaves 50-foot high sprayed with a product?
mhm.
With the glycine, it is so curative. If you spray the bottom leaves,
Uh-huh.
it'll move through the vascular tissue of the plant and take care of what's going on the upper ones. I had never before seen anything like that happen, but the process and the mentality
Mhm.
was proven 40 years ago through a germ warfare project that Don Huber was involved with.
Gotcha. That's fantastic. So I'm going to send you this picture. So if you look at this tree, Bob, you can tell because this is clearly not natural. You know, tree don't
Okay.
grow this way.
I,
So
what I see is just like copper in the
mhm.
body and the connective tissue allows it to stretch and twist. They've been spraying around the tree with glyphosate, and the bark, instead of expanding, breaks and splits. And then if
Yep.
you're in an area where it freezes, the freezing weather could get into a tree, and the tree might die from cold temperatures.
Yep. Got it. Okay. So Kathleen, I think we have been gone through quite a bit of discussion. I don't want it to drag on too long. What do you think so far? Is it helpful? You think we can maybe send this recording to everyone?
Yes, absolutely. I am certainly going to send this recording. I will be including all of the things that you mentioned as far as like reading is concerned and some of the names of these companies if anybody's interested in researching it further for themselves. And do you mind this stopping the screen share really quickly if that's
Yes.
cool? Awesome. Thank you. Yes, I definitely learned a lot. I know so much more now than I did before this live stream about glyphosate. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. I do have a couple of more questions just relating to, so if anybody's interested in getting tested, could they just walk into any physician's office and make a request for that? Is that how they would go about doing that?
Very good question. Probably not, because most physicians are now trained in environmental medicine, but they certainly can. So what I'm doing is we're doing it for them for free. So they can call us at 530-926-1000, and that's our office line. And Esther will be able to call them back and get you information and test for them. We also want to encourage physicians, if they are interested, we'll teach them how to open an account with the lab. The testing, again, it's not covered by insurance. That's one of the block, but it's very, very important. At some point, it's going to be you passed by, by Medicare, but right now it's not. So that's one way to do it. The other way, if they don't want to call Esther, who is my assistant, they can also contact detoxproject.org or hrilabs.org. Both of them will test the urine of the person, the hair, and water, and even their pets, because we are seeing lots of pets are getting cancer way too early. So we want to be able to test their pets too.
Awesome. Thank you. That helps a lot. That's a good answer. I'll link those as well. Yes, I'd like to thank both of you for being here with us today. And thank the audience for the people who are here for watching. I'm going to double check to see if there's any questions as we wrap up.
See, if they need to contact me or find out more what we've got a website called www.centraliowaag.com, spell Iowa out, then AG. And we've got a very good website, was developed by the guy that helped us was the guy that did the website for the Grateful Dead and Steppenwolf. So a little bit of California music there. But anyhow, we've been trying to build a arsenal, I guess call it that, of soft pesticides, say tree extracts, microbials, and we've got a pretty good selection right now. Say, for example, a new insecticide came on the scene. It's an extract from a tree from Chile. They grind up shrimp shells and it turns into an organic insecticide, fungicide. And just talked to a friend from Idaho, and they're using the shrimp shells as a seed treatment, and it's working better than any artificial or hard pesticide is for that purpose. They're killing nematodes. I talked to I've been going back and forth with Dr. Judy Johnson. She's head of research for plant sciences, and that is, her husband was a fellow that developed all of the current blackberry varieties. And she said, if they don't come up with softer and more effective, safer pesticides, they're going to be raising all the berries indoors in greenhouses.
Yeah.
And I said, you could probably get rid of where they've got say they're raising berries, they typically spend $500 an acre to take care of the nematodes in the ground. And they found a way that they can use shrimp shells, and knowing the biology of the pest a little bit better, they can cut the $500 per acre down to $60 an acre and completely safe.
So we are going to definitely go to your website for farmers.
Yes.
Well, I look at it, the good Lord developed these things and put them here, and we're just not smart enough to perceive it until
exactly.
Yeah. And we've got a product that we can spray on plants, and it makes the plants tolerate temps up to 160 degrees and tolerate extreme drought. And they found it was the properties came when the plants were infected with a fungus, and they discovered it in the plants living in the hot pools around the geysers in Yellowstone.
Wow.
Sounds like there's a lot of natural and alternative remedies or alternatives to some of these pesticides and things that work just as effectively then.
Yeah, and say COVID, that's in the news a lot, and there's a medicine called ivermectin, which is used as a wormer. They found it's also good on cancer, and it's the best thing on the virus. And it came from a wormer called ivermectin, which is an extract from the Japanese soil fungus.
Wow.
And,
really?
penicillin is a bread mold.
That's right. That's right. So because the mold actually create the toxins to be the strongest survivors, right? That's a logic.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, there's a lot of work right now on snake venom, anticoagulants that bloodsuckers use or insects use. So nature is very interesting, very
Mhm.
intricate also.
Yes, that's definitely true.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat for now. We have had some viewers over the course of our time together. I'd just like to thank you both again for being here with us today, and thank you to our viewers who came and participated. And yeah, I definitely learned a lot. I hope you all did too. And if any of you watching would like to donate, become a member of the Ecology Center, or stay informed about upcoming volunteer and community education events, please visit our website. I will link that website in this video, so that you can visit and stay up to date. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Lu and Bob, and we'll definitely be in touch soon.
Now, we'd like to have this video posted on our website if you can arrange that.
Yes, I can. It is recording, so I will make sure that it gets to you.
Very good. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to stop the live stream.
Thank you.